It's here. It's finally here. Week one.
Football.
Football is here. I'm Kyle Smith. I'm joined by Kyle West. What's up, man? How are you?
Heyo, how's it going?
It's good. I'm excited. It is finally here. We can get through all the nonsense of preseason. We'll hit on that very, very briefly today. I want to just get the elephant out of the room. I want to apologize for last week. Apparently, I just decided to dip into having a really bad sailor mouth the entire show. So I will refrain from doing that because I know some of you guys listen with your kids, or maybe you just don't want to hear that as often. Right. So if I drop, something here or there, try not to shoot them. I know we got a message from somebody. I don't know who. I just got it through the grapevine. But if we drop one here or there, give us some leniency. But I promise you, we won't be jam-packed with a bunch of swearing this week. I'm sorry. I don't know what got into me last week, but
you were in full-on military mode.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't think we're going to talk too much about the Buffalo game, by the way, because it's the fourth preseason game. Everyone who didn't perform well has already been cut. So the bulk of that game just isn't even worth discussing, in my opinion.
The reason that we waited too is to wait for the roster to come out. We really wanted to go over the roster as the main topic today, and
Definitely.
then I wanted to do a game by game prediction of the season. Now that we don't have to worry too much about injuries or who's going to make the roster and all that.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen crazier stuff happen the week before the season starts, so
yeah,
hopefully not. But this week's episode is number 360. It's called What's Up, Doctson? And I'm really glad we waited till today to do it, man. Just a couple of hours ago, the news broke. Main topic of the day, we were going into this season with 4 wide receivers on the 53-man. You kind of figured that they were going to add someone else. They signed former first-round pick the same year that we picked Laquan Treadwell. Josh Doctson came out. He was drafted by the Redskins, so him and Kirk Cousins have history. He had 500 yards and some change and 5 touchdowns on the season with his best season in Washington. So no offense to Laquan. We wish him well, but that's already more production there. Adam says that he is more of a pass catcher than blocker. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the name of the title for this week.
Well, that's good. I would rather have a wide receiver that's a wide receiver.
I mean, we want to keep it nice here, but I mean, at some point you got to call a spade a spade. So I'm with you on that. Hopefully, you can fill in spot as wide receiver 3. Because if you have Thielen, Diggs, and Doctson, and it works out, that's a pretty good trio.
And BC Johnson, I'm really excited to see what BC Johnson will do.
Yeah,
if he can carry that
huge for the
success over.
If it works out, I think this is one of those low risk, high reward signings. And we didn't have to claim off waivers or anything. He was released, and then we picked him up. So pretty cool news. Got another first round pick. A little bit more on the resume. Not much, but a little bit more than what's up, Dorian? What's up, dude? Yeah, a little bit more on the resume than what Laquan Treadwell had. So
a little bit. Let's just finish our quick hit. Let's just segue right into that quick hit because I had that wrote down too. He said he was the former first-round pick of the Washington Redskins. He was taken 22 overall in the 2016 NFL Draft. That was one pick before the Vikings took Laquan Treadwell. You have to wonder, I'm just speculating, but you have to wonder the Vikings acted so quick on picking him up if they originally wanted him in the 2016 draft. Yeah. He got taken a pick before, and so they did the Rick Spielman thing that we've seen him do before. They scramble and went for not the next best player, but who they felt was the next best at that position, maybe.
Yep.
And we ended up with Laquan Treadwell. Now, it didn't work out for Treadwell. It didn't really work out for Doctson in Washington either. So we'll see if the change of scenery can help. He did put up better numbers than Treadwell. What was it? Something like, what do you say, like 6 touchdowns?
Yeah, 5 or 6 touchdowns. I think it was 2017 was his best season, and then like 550 some odd yards. And I just sent it out to a message today. Like I said, I'm not here to trash Laquan Treadwell, but we talked about it between the 3 of us being, or the 4 of us, Dorian, Adam, and the 2 Kyles here with you now. Laquan Treadwell had 35 drops in 3 seasons. Chris Carter didn't drop 35 passes his whole career. So it's not surprising.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I Googled that. I was curious just to compare it. So, and 1 touchdown in 3 seasons. I mean, you knew that was going to happen, and I wish him well. Mike Zimmer said nothing but good stuff about him and wished him well, but he just didn't live up to the expectation. So it is what it is. Good luck to Laquan Treadwell. We won't even talk about it later in the show. We already kind of knocked it out here, but he has been released. Unfortunately, no one claimed him off waiver, so the Vikings do have to absorb that salary hit in the contract or whatever. But whatever, man. He's going to get paid. He's pretty much taken care of for life. Hopefully he can pick up somewhere else and hopefully be like a number 2 or 3 somewhere else. But
4 or 5, 6 or 7.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? 2 or 3? Come on, man.
I'm trying to be nice, man. Quick hits. This is cool. Brian Robinson has been inducted into the Texas Longhorns Hall of Honor this past weekend. Congrats to B-Rob.
Yeah.
Not such a good football school. Such a good football school.
Yeah, the Texas Longhorns. You betcha.
I'm excited for Texas. I'm sorry, for North Carolina. Speaking of Texas, and kind of segue into that, and this has nothing to do with the Vikings, but I'm from North Carolina, so I'm unfortunately a Tar Heel fan, which is great during basketball season. Always great during basketball, but during college football season, it's pretty much 8-5 every year if we're lucky. But we got Mac Brown, and he was the coach there for a while, and he walked in and got a win this weekend, and he was 70 years old doing his dance and doing the Kirk Cousins kind of like dad dance thing around the locker room. So that was pretty cool. So segueing from Texas, but congrats to B-Rob, man. He's one of my favorite players that we've ever had.
Yep.
Okay, there are a ton of players cut here. I'm not going to go over every single one of them.
We'll just hit some of the highlights
in front of you. So if you find anyone that I missed that you think is of note, let me know. But I'm going to go through and hit some of the ones that I think are noteworthy. Jeff Badette, Kari Blessingame, Jake Browning, I believe, is on the practice squad. This is kind of surprising. Aviante Collins, he made the team for quite a few years the last couple because he was always on B-Rob's 96 questions. He was cut. Going through here, more of these. Don't know a bunch of these guys. Dylan Mitchell, Storm Norton, Tito Odenigbo. So he's the brother of Afadi, I believe. Kyle Sloter, that was probably the biggest shocker of the week. He signed with Arizona. Laquan Treadwell, Kari Vedvik, Brandon Zylstra, Holton Hill, David Morgan, reserve and pup list. Don't know if he's going to come back. And Tayshawn Battle.
Couple of those guys here at the end. Holton Hill is on the reserve suspended list. David Morgan is on the reserve pup list. And Tashawn Bauer is on the reserve non-football injury list. So there's possibility the Vikings could be bringing any of those guys back when they get healthy or over suspensions or whatever as well too. I think the shockers out of those, I mean, we all knew Laquan Treadwell was on his way out, but to finally see it happen is like, oh, they finally move on from it. Corey Vedvik, I know a lot of us don't understand what happened with that. All
right, I'm going to go on a rant here, and I want your opinion.
Go for it.
Finally, so let's do a 2-part thing here, and we'll just get people's opinion. If anyone's in the chat, let us know what you feel like. I'm not mad that Kyle Sloter was let go. I don't hate the guy. I call a spade, as we said earlier. If the baby's ugly, call it ugly. He does well against bad competition. I would not feel comfortable at all for him to win over 500% or over 50% of his games, to go 500 through the season against NFL defenses. And I'm talking like crappy teams like the Dolphins and the Bucks and whoever. I wouldn't put it past him to lose both of those games in terrible fashion on awful interceptions and just not putting the ball where it needs to be or forcing the ball too much. He's a preseason hero, and it's a fun story to watch because we're not going to get to see a full half of Kirk Cousins every week. You're not going to get to see a full game. We know that. You might get to see one game where he plays a full half, which I think we might have one game there. But it is what it is. He plays well against 2s and 3s, and I wish the kid absolutely well. He's a gunslinger. He likes to go for it, and I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm happy that he got somewhere else. I kind of figured that he would, but I don't think those comments helped him either. The whole, like, kind of being passive-aggressive when he was asked in interviews. Like, Zimmer don't like that. And Yang Yaj, what's up, dude? Is there Survival League? Yes, there is. Go to the Facebook page. I actually joined it this past weekend. It's pretty cool. Hurry up and do it now or when we get off of the show today because The season starts Thursday. So you can go sign up. It'll take you 3 minutes at the most to sign up, get in, and make your picks. But, yes, it's on the Facebook page. Just scroll down. Kyle posted it last week, I think.
We've posted it a few times, so it should definitely be on there. But, yeah, for anyone listening who doesn't know what the Survival League is, check us out over on Facebook. You have an opportunity to win some free Vikings prizes. I know we've done jerseys, we've done autographs, we've done what all was in there last year.
I'm not sure if it was jersey. Adam can get some good deals on jerseys. It's a bunch of free stuff that's Viking related. Yeah. It's player cards, like sports cards, signed pictures, jerseys, collectibles, anything that you can think of, and it's absolutely free. We cover it here in the podcast just to get more support for the show, more people to like the page, to view every week. You don't have to
just like give it back to you guys too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a fun thing that Viking fans do to each other, and like we want to support each other, and you guys support the show, we'll support you. And like I said, it's not like a fantasy football league where you have to like put $20 in and then the winner wins everything, and if you're in second, you get your money back or something. This is 100% free all around. So let us know and sign up. It's on the Facebook page. Back to this thing though, we were talking about cuts. I'm just gonna say it because I want to save it for the end, but I do believe that Rick Spielman needs a hard look at as far as a replacement. You got to find somebody better. I'm always in belief of that. But this whole Corey Vedvik thing really pissed me off over the weekend. This is 2 years in a row we've wasted 5th-round picks on kickers, which is totally unacceptable. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. And I'm not that guy who's like, you need to do this and I should be the coach. Like, I know I'm not an NFL coach. I might not even be good enough to be the equipment boy. But looking out from the outside in, you've wasted 2 years in a row on kickers that are not on this team. Now, I understand the frustration of last year because we could have went, 9-6-1 and probably squeaked in the playoffs. Had Daniel Carlson made those kicks in Green Bay, sure. And it's not good when you bring a guy from Baltimore in and he misses 2 or 3 field goals in the preseason. I get it. But at some point, you've got to sit there and say, maybe it's not all of these kickers. Maybe it's my coaching staff and maybe it's my special teams unit. When it comes to Rick Spielman draft picks, there have been a lot of questionable stuff. Now, we've gotten guys like Dalvin Cook and Eric Kendricks and then Garrett Bradbury and all these great guys on the team, Harrison Smith, Kyle Rudolph. They've been staples of the team. Daniil Hunter was a great 3rd-round pick. But we go down the list of questionable draft picks. We just let go of a 1st-round pick that did nothing. Matt Khalil was terrible. Christian Ponder was probably the biggest bust up until Laquan Treadwell. Cordero Patterson didn't work out whatsoever, and he was a 1st-round pick.
At least Patterson was able to contribute on special teams. So he made an impact on the team. It wasn't where you wanted to see it, but Patterson I don't think was a total bust. We got nothing out of Laquan Treadwell. Patterson, Patterson helped us win some games.
Yeah, he was good that first year, especially gadget guy, 9 touchdowns all around, and he was definitely the best return man for a brief period, but not a receiver at all, not worth a 1st-round pick. I mean, we probably could have got him in the 2nd or 3rd looking back on it now. But, yeah, there's a lot of questionable picks there, and now we're wasting more draft picks, and I'm sorry, man, but a 5th-round pick, you can find a starter in the 5th round. Look at Laquan Treadwell, or not Laquan, what I said, Stephon Diggs. Look at Stephon Diggs. He's a 5th-round pick, and he's on the team. And he's a staple of the offense. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to agree with these people online with saying that this guy might need to get the boot soon because he's got to have an A++ draft in the next 2 years to keep his job. Every one of them have to be hits minus maybe 1 or 2 of the late-round picks. But I don't know what your thoughts are, man, but I started adding it up this weekend, letting go and just getting rid of the more picks later on. That's a 2020 5th-round pick we don't have for a 3-week rental of a kicker that went to the Jets. What is that?
Right. I agree with Yinyaj about Treadwell being a bigger bust than Troy Williamson. I agree. I agree with you on that one as well too. It's frustrating because I feel like they recognized early on in the offseason that Matt Weil is not a good holder and they wanted to replace him. And they did nothing about it. They continually did nothing about it. Yeah. They brought in Vedvik, and they had this weird rotation between holders and kickers and punters that just did a complete disservice to everyone. And I feel like Vedvik is going to go to the Jets and they're going to put him in a stable situation and he's probably going to be fine, like how Daniel Carlson got
100%.
put in a better stable situation and suddenly he's kicking perfect out there for the Raiders. So it's frustrating to see Minnesota burn a 5th-round draft pick for a guy who's only with us for 3 preseason games, for them to cut him because they thought that they were going to try to be smart enough to put him on the practice squad. That's what they were thinking. Clearly, that did not work out. I think they overthought that whole situation as well too. It's just it's frustrating. I hope they're able to figure out special teams because I'm tired of talking about kickers, punters, and holders in Minnesota. Those are 3 topics I just don't want to discuss anymore.
Yep, beating that with a dead horse. And here's a segue to that for our last quick hit. You could have kept Corey Vedvik on as the punter because we know he can punt. I'm not saying he's the NFL's best punter, but he still would have had a role and would have been worth something. What's up, Michael? And he still would have been worth something. They go out this week and they release Matt Weil and sign veteran punter Britton Colquitt from the Browns. Okay, cool. We have a kicker, a punter that's really well known for his holding abilities. Be a better coaching staff and teach the guy how to hold. And then you get your use out of your 5th-round pick, man. I just don't agree with it. It's frustrating as hell. And if the team wins, we'll forget about this. That's fine. And if we have 3 missed field goals in the entire season, we'll be like, you know what? That was a win. They know what they're doing. But if we go into the first quarter of this season and there's 4 missed field goals and the punting situation's all jacked and there's something to where the hold messes up and there's a fumble, dude, I'm telling you, this is going to snowball like nothing has ever snowballed. And I'm telling you right now, not only Zimmer will be on the hot seat, but Spielman will be out there too. Because you guys, this is my whole conspiracy theory here. We have Gary Kubiak in the building who won a Super Bowl 4 years ago. If you don't think that front office, the owners of this team are thinking about, well, if Zimmer leaves, we're going to hire that guy, you are crazy out of your mind. He took a year off to get healthy. He's back. And I'm telling you right now, if Zimmer doesn't step up and succeed, which you guys know if you've listened to the show at any point in the last 5 years, I am a huge Mike Zimmer believer. I love that man. But his job's going to be on the line here soon. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to hire in-house. And that's going to be the end of that. It's going to be Gary Kubiak's team if something doesn't happen. You heard it here first. I don't know if somebody said that already. But, man, oof. I was so pissed when they let him go. I was like, good Lord. Andrew
Leota. Yeah, shouldn't the special teams have gotten straightened out after last year? I would hope so. I feel like we're again entering the same situation we were last offseason, where it's right before the season starts, and we're still messing with pieces and parts. And I feel like they should have had this figured out by now, but I'm going to keep continuing to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume they know what they're doing. Yep. They've brought in veterans now. Okay, so we got the veteran Dan Bailey, we got the veteran what's his name, Britton Colquitt. They're both veterans who have been at this for a while. They should know what they're doing. They should be able to work together well. The young kid at long snapper should be fine. I would hope so. So I hope that they're able to figure this out really quick.
It seems like a thing, especially since Zimmer came around, but even in the Leslie Frazier eras, this team focuses a lot on certain things, and they just always tend to not look at other things. Wide receiver has been a definite bust, especially in the draft itself. Your best receivers are an undrafted free agent and a 5th-round pick. You got to hit on a wide receiver every once in a while, and we haven't. Quarterback has been freaking abysmal, just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then offensive line. It's the offensive side of the ball we've been pretty crappy at. But you can bet your ass we are going to have a farm system out there to turn 3rd-round pass rushers into elite NFL defensive ends. See Daniil Hunter, Everson Griffin. We're going to have cornerbacks out the wazoo. I forget who I was listening to today on a podcast, but they started with the NFC North, and they raved about the defense. They said, dude, I don't know, besides the Bears, who has a more stacked team. And the Vikings lost some good players. Like, you lost Anderson Dejo and Sheldon Richardson. He's like, I'm still looking at Griffin and Hunter on the edge. I'm looking at Linval Joseph. They gave a shout out. I can't remember who this was. I'll think about it later and tell you. Afadi Odenigbo and Shamar Stephan said those are really good players. Two good linebackers in Barr and Kendricks. And then he said the defensive backs are stacked. He's like, but then you look at like Pro Football Focus. I said it to Kyle earlier. We're 26th ranked after the preseason offensive line. We went from 30th to 26th. You guys have to do better than that.
Hey man, we'll see what happens. I still think the upgrades that they've done at the line are going to help out quite a bit, and I definitely think that having a more competent group of running backs as well as wide receivers and is going to help Kirk Cousins be in a better situation to succeed, where I don't think he's going to have to take as many sacks as what he did the previous season for us.
I hope so, man. I don't know. We'll see. The season hasn't started yet, so we'll get into that. So this is a quick hits. Main topic, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but now that it's official, especially after the Josh Doctson signing.
Official, but we don't know who the Vikings cut to make room for him as of this recording. So he's not actually listed on the current 53-man roster. So keep that in mind as we discuss this topic.
Yeah. Let's start with the easy ones here. Kirk Cousins will be your quarterback this year and next year, whether you like it or not. He's your quarterback number one. Unpopular online, so all the armchair quarterbacks, GMs, and coaches. Sean Mannion will back up Kirk Cousins to many people online's disbelief and displeasure. We're going with two quarterbacks, and honestly, I like it. If the season comes down to having to play your quarterback number 3, you're screwed anyways. So
Adam and I have discussed this for a long time. That we've wanted to see this team roll with two quarterbacks, just because roster spots are so few and far in between, and you want to have those specialized players who can help you on special teams or like a fullback or something like that. And I think that keeping two quarterbacks, like you said, if Kirk Cousins goes down, does it matter who you're back?
Any realistic hopes of a playoff berth and or playoff win goodbye?
Well, you say that, but then you look at the Eagles a few years back. You look at the situation they were in, where Carson Wentz goes down and their backup Nick Foles comes in and wins the Super Bowl for him too. So it is super important to have that backup quarterback. We're not saying that, but I think that having a situation like that is few and far in between.
Oh, 100%. And I'll give you the example too that it works right now. Jacoby Brissett, Andrew Luck up and retires out of nowhere last weekend, and they have a really solid backup. I think he's in the very, very bottom half of 32 starters, but he's a starter. He's on the bottom 6 or 7, but he's a starter. And they were pretty set. Like they're going to be a couple of wins short now on the Vegas betting line, but it would be a major drop off if you had to go to somebody like Trevor Siemian or Geno Smith or somebody like that. He's better than those guys. So that, to your point, that's very true. Running backs are next. Amir Abdullah, Mike Boone, Dalvin Cook, and Alexander Madison, not in that order of starters from 1 to 4. I'm good with this running back group. It is a very, very diverse running back group. You have your punt return specialist in Amir Abdullah, and then he had a decent preseason. Mike Boone had a great preseason. Alexander Madison had a touchdown in the preseason. And, of course, we saw Dalvin Cook in the Arizona game do his one flashy thing and run for an 85-yard touchdown. So I like the running back group a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth there. Like you said, Dalvin Cook coming out being healthy for this team this year is going to be really important. We need him on the field. We need him making plays for this team. He can be a running back, but he can also be that sneaky player who can catch passes, which I think is going to be an important safety valve for Kirk Cousins to have out there on the field as well too. Just dump it off in times of need to Cook and let him turn a 2-3 yard pass into a big gain down the field. That's what you hope for out of him. I love Madison. I like Boone. I like but don't love Mike Boone. I think he's a good third running back. And Amir Abdullah will do fine out there on special teams for us. I don't think you'll see him probably lined up too much as a running back for the team. I think Abdullah is just going to be like a pure special teams guy for the Vikings, which is okay.
I agree with it. And with this good, diverse group, and with Gary Kubiak being there as like the assistant head coach / offensive assistant, whatever, we're going to run the shit out of the ball this year. Excuse my French, but we are going to run the ball probably twice as much as we did last year. So that's always a good thing. So expect big things from the running backs group for sure.
We've seen some cool sets in preseason where they had 2 running backs and a fullback on the field at the same time, and I am like, I love that set. That's an awesome set because you can. They faked it 2 or 3 times to CJ Ham, who's our fullback that we're keeping on the roster this year, and I'm telling you guys, at some point in the regular season, they're going to run that set and they're going to give it to CJ Ham, and he's going to get us some sneaky yardage for this team because you don't expect it. But he's a darn good player. He's the converted running back into fullback for this team who can do basically everything that you would expect from a large running back. I firmly believe that you can run the traditional fullback set where you just hand the ball off to CJ Ham, and hey, he can get you those short yardage gains from this team. He's a darn good player. I'm happy to have CJ Ham.
I'm glad he's back, man. This is just like back in the day when AP had his great seasons with us back-to-back MVP year, and then another great year a couple years later when we had Jerome Felton. Loved having him.
I like Jerome Felton a lot.
Yeah, I love them to death. I love CJ Ham to death. I'm glad we kept the fullback. We're one of the few teams that keep a fullback on the active roster. So there's your one and only fullback that Kyle mentioned. CJ Ham made the team. This says 4 wide receivers here, but as of the news today, we know that we'll have 5, and we'll try to figure out who is probably.
Don't know who's cut yet, so.
Wide receivers: Chad Beebe, Stephon Diggs, BC Johnson, Adam Thielen, and Josh Doctson as of today. I like this wide receiver group way more than I did 3 weeks ago when we were like, who's going to be on the team? I like this group so much more. I thought that Jeff Badette was good. I thought he had a decent preseason. Brandon Zylstra, I think the Panthers picked up. I feel like somebody else maybe got signed with the Patriots. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. I know Zylstra, they called him Brandy or Brady Zylstra, which is really funny.
Oh, yeah. That was Adam Schefter, I think.
Good job.
Yeah.
But those are your wide receivers. 5 wide receivers is plenty. And I'll tell you why, because I'm going to segue straight to this, and we can talk about both groups. We kept 4 tight ends, which is crazy. So you have 5 wide receivers and 4 tight ends, 9 pass catchers, not including the running backs. Tight ends are Tyler Conklin, Brandon Dillon, Kyle Rudolph, and Irv Smith Jr. This is a pass-catching group of guys. Holy crap.
Yeah, let's talk through this because the 53 you can only have 48 players active on game day, so that means not everyone gets.
I don't know.
I think it's 48. I think someone will tell us in the chat, but that means that usually the Vikings don't have their full group of receivers active on game day. So Thielen and Diggs, and then the new guy that we just signed, Doctson, they're going to be probably your top 3. They're going to be active. I think it's going to be a toss-up between Chad Beebe and BC Johnson for who they keep for that 4th guy on game day. So it'll be interesting to see if Chad Beebe's ability on special teams, where they've been using him as a holder, is enough to keep him active on game day, or if they really believe that BC Johnson can go out there and contribute right now as a receiver on the field. Is that going to make him the active receiver? So it'll be interesting to see and make plays. But I've liked what we've seen preseason wise a little more from BC Johnson this year. For the tight ends, Irv Smith Jr. is essentially just a big ass wide receiver. We talked about that in the chat room between us. He's just a big wide receiver that they call a tight end. And I am okay with that. Kyle Rudolph, he's the veteran. We love him. I know you made the same face that I was mentally thinking about right there, Smith. We're thinking it's into the line a little bit for him. So we're hoping that he can still have a nice, productive, good season for the Vikings and contribute. I hope that he hasn't reached that kind of that cliff that veterans hit where they suddenly fall off. I don't think so, because from what we've heard, and it could be a lot of spin from PR, but I've heard a lot about how Kyle Rudolph has shed some weight and he's looking quicker and faster than he has in previous years. So I really hope he has a good season for the Vikings. I really do.
I think he will. I think it'll be some more two tight end kind of sets. I think Smith will draw some attention with his speed, and I think that'll open up a little bit of stuff for Rudolph. He's a good red zone target, so I'm all with you there. He was actually talking to Chris Sims. If you haven't listened to Chris Sims Unbuttoned, his podcast, dude, so good. All the stuff, if you can go in with an open mind, no more sneaky throws to Morgan from Andrew. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of people to distribute the ball to, but I think you're right, Andrew. Go listen to Chris Sims' podcast. He had Kyle Rudolph on, and when I woke up today, I always sleep with the podcast on for noise instead of music. And he was talking to Kyle Rudolph earlier. They were doing a golf thing, and he said, so you're in your third contract, blah, blah, blah. And he says, look, man, I want to retire here. He's like, my kids are good here. The people are great. The management's good. I love the team. I thought we had a
cool. Take a pay cut. I said he can take a pay cut then.
100% where I was going there. So we're on the same page. I'm okay if he stays for a significant pay cut, and I don't think that's unfair to ask. Kyle and I had an unpopular opinion, and I'll just say it out here now so I can get the wolves on him too. But we were firmly in the belief that if we had to take emotion out of it and we were going to cut some people early this year, we would be able to part ways with Everson Griffin and Kyle Rudolph, probably no questions asked, only because it would be probably a year early. They'd probably go somewhere else and still produce, and then slowly start their downhill descent because of age. It has nothing to do with them personally or anything that's happened with them. It's more for money and trying to get some young guys in to see if they'll hit. But I hope Kyle Rudolph can figure out a way to stay. It would have to be.
Yeah, with all that said, we want Kyle Rudolph to put up career numbers for the Vikings this year in Minnesota, because this could potentially be his last season, just based on like the Vikings salary cap hell that they're going to be entering next year. So who knows what's going to be going on with that. So we are like, I do understand what Spielman is trying to do on being all in with this team in 2019 and saying, hey, we want to have Rudolph out there for the Vikings for at least one more season so that we can try to get this done on the field.
Yeah. Man, I didn't think we were going to talk about Kyle Rudolph for 5 minutes there. That's funny. Good pass catchers between the wide receivers and tight ends. Let's go to the offensive line. 4 tackles, Rashad Hill, Brian O'Neill, Riley Reif, Oli Udoh. 3 guards, Pat Elflein, Josh Klein, and Drew Samia. 2 centers, Brett Jones and Garrett Bradbury. I'd like this group better than what we had last year, but that's like saying I'd rather get kicked in the teeth rather than kicked in my you-know-what. So no offense to those guys, but we were 30th out of 32 overall last year. The run blocking grade was awful. The pass blocking grade was not that much better. I do think Garrett Bradbury has an immediate impact and change. I do like the scheme that Kubiak is going to have with them. Heard nothing but good stuff about that. They just have to click, man. It's all about clicking, and as long as they can run the ball pretty effectively, they can be about 14 or 13 in the NFL in running. This team's going to be all right. Offense is going to be fine.
Yeah, man, we'll see what happens. I'll freely admit offensive line is not a position that I can sit here and break down. Adam is our offensive line guy. He's the one that can tell you. He can tell you all about the linemen. That's just not my strong suit. I do think that they have upgraded from where they were last year. I don't think we're where we need to be, but I think that that's a trend in the NFL right now. There is not enough starting caliber offensive linemen in the NFL, period. You see mediocre talent get overpaid.
Oh, I was going to say, because if you are a good, let's just say Miami, for example, if you are an elite talent, people overpay for them like crazy, like quarterbacks. Houston
definitely.
Just gave up 2 first-round picks for Laramie Tunsil over the weekend. They got rid of Jadeveon Clowney. If you guys didn't hear, Jadeveon Clowney goes to the Seahawks because, of course, they get another great pass rusher. But why wouldn't they? But they need help. They want to win now in Houston, so they go out and sign arguably top 5 left tackle in the league, and they overpaid the crap out of that whole trade. And I'm
But
like,
you have to because there's not enough to go around. There is not enough to go around.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't have given up that much for him, but that's cool. Good for Houston, I guess. I don't know. But I think the offensive line will be improved if we can, like we said, if I'm being greedy here and hopeful, I say we could be around 13th or 14th overall as O-line. Realistically, I'd say we're about 19 or 20. Yeah. Michael, we'll get to Xavier Rhodes here shortly. Just give us a couple more minutes. We're about to go to the defensive side of the ball, and I am with you. I think Xavier Rhodes is, I don't know, man. Hopefully he's still got 2 or 3 good seasons left in the tank. Right after center goes cornerbacks. So we're going defense here. So, Michael, good time to chime in. 6 corners on the roster: Mackenzie Alexander, Chris Boyd, Mark Fields. I think Mark Fields came over from Kansas City.
Arizona? No, Kansas City.
Yeah, I think like a 7th-round pick, something like that. Mike Hughes, Xavier Rhodes, and Trey Waynes. Corner depth is pretty good. Not going to lie.
That's a decent group of corners.
Yeah, between Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes, and you have backups as Mackenzie Alexander and Mike Hughes was a first-rounder last year. It's pretty good depth. I like that depth. I'm with you, Michael. I am worried about Xavier Rhodes. And I think 2015 was his best season. Shut down like Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, guys like that. Seeing him in the preseason getting burnt by like Christian Kirk, not exciting to watch.
Not a good look, but
also though to kind of talk crap about myself a couple weeks ago for critiquing that game. The whole team looked like crap that game. I think it might have just been one of those games where we're Minnesota. We like to poop in our hand and then smack our face with it. I don't know. It's just one of those games. But that corner depth it's pretty good. Not going to lie. And that's what's great about that depth too is having a guy like Mike Hughes. You don't have to rush him back in. He doesn't have to play until Mike Zimmer wants him to play. So cool with it.
But I think we need Mike Hughes back and healthy as soon as possible because I do agree. I am a little worried about Xavier Rhodes. He does seem like he may be regressing for some reason, which is weird because he should be just entering like the prime of his career. So I don't quite know what's going on. I don't know if it's been mental struggles or what, or if he's kind of doing that veteran thing where, it's preseason, I'm not going to go out there and try that hard because I know my roster spot is safe.
That's not going to work with Mike Zimmer as your coach, though.
Yeah, I know, but man, players get that attitude. That just happens regardless of who the coach is. Trey Waynes, I'm more of a fan of Trey Waynes than I think what a lot of the internet is. I will freely admit that he is a up and down player, but I think overall he's better than people give him credit for. And I do think that the depth underneath those guys is definitely solid with guys like Mackenzie Alexander out there for the Vikings. Linebackers, really quick, we got 5 linebackers. I think our linebacker core is pretty good this year too. Anthony Barr, Kentrell Brothers, Ben Gedeon, Eric Kendricks, and Eric Wilson is the linebacking core for the Minnesota Vikings. I love Kentrell Brothers. I love Eric Kendricks as well, too. Anthony Barr, I'm a little give and take on. I am glad that he's back because I do think that him and Kendricks do work together well with this team. We talked about this a lot last season. They need to put Anthony Barr in better positions to succeed. I think that they were putting him in a lot of areas that it's like, hey, go cover a number 1 receiver as a linebacker. If we can not ask him to do that, I think that
if we could not ask him to cover Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods.
Yeah, right. Like there were some of those plays that we were frustrated.
That's not his job, man.
Right, we were all frustrated on those plays like that, but he was not in a good position to succeed.
Yeah, I think some teams got some good film on us from the year before, having like a number 2 overall defense, and they exposed that. If you have a creative young mind like, God, what's the guy's name? I guess Sean McVay. you have a good creative young mind like Sean McVay, he's going to figure out ways to expose your weaknesses. And it's like, cool, I'm going to get a speedy little 5'9" receiver on a linebacker. Well, of course he's going to win that battle. You know what I mean? Like, I get it.
Anthony Barr's strong suit has never really been dropping back in coverage.
No,
Anthony Barr is at his best when he can kind of sniff around the line of scrimmage and rush the quarterback. That is what Anthony Barr is good at. And so you're right. It is. I think the Vikings put him in bad positions, and I do think we were out schemed where they were scheming the other team to where he was being forced to play out of his natural position. We got outcoached. Mike Zimmer got outcoached.
He did, and not by much. I'm not crapping on that game in general.
No.
It was a shootout. They ended up making a couple more big plays than we did. But yeah, good linebackers, man. Good linebackers.
Yep.
Back to the defensive backs. Marcus Epps, I have no idea about anything about him, but that's another safety. Anthony Harris, Jaron Kearse, and Harrison Smith. I will tell you what, I have not been on the Jaron Kearse bandwagon the whole time he's been here, but that dude had himself a preseason, and I am so happy because I think he's from Clemson, and I like that kid a lot. He's not a starter. He's a great special teams player, absolutely great special teams safety, but I'm happy. I'm happy that he had a great preseason. Maybe he's finally coming into his own. I forget who just had.
What was that?
I said I forget who just had whose comment was just up, but said that Mike Zimmer blamed himself for most of those. Yes, Coach Zimmer's pretty good about taking the blame. Andrew said that. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, Coach Zimmer's pretty good about it. Just you hate it because you're right there with that means it's the Super Bowl representative of the NFC, and you're in the game up until the fourth quarter in their home stadium. Like you can play with the best of them. You just those are a couple little ones I wanted back, and Anthony Barr got picked on bad that game.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk about this player on the team. He's a safety. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Harrison Smith. I think I think he's going to do good things for this team. I think he has a lot of potential.
He's got a bright future.
Yeah, he's got a really bright future. Harrison Smith, I think he's the best player. Offense, defense, special teams. I think he is the best player currently on the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fight me on that one if you disagree, because I'll pull up the fisticuffs for Harrison Smith. I think he's an amazing player, amazing talent. He is on his way to the Hall of Fame. That's how highly I think of Harrison Smith.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be in the Vikings Ring of Honor for sure. He may even get Hall of Fame status. If he can do about 5 more seasons of the way he's been playing, I don't see why he couldn't. Maybe not first ballot, but he's good, man.
Barring injury, I don't see why he won't continue to keep playing at an elite level.
He's just good at what he does.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it. He's just really good at what he does, and he just naturally good ball hawk. He can disguise. Anthony Harris talked about it. I think it's on that the Voyage. If you guys are Viking fans and you haven't watched episodes of The Voyage, so
it's great. Good show.
They talked to Anthony Harris a little bit, how he came up from, I think it was from Virginia Tech. I know he's from that state. And he's talking about how he got confused a lot with Harrison Smith when he played beside him. He's like, what is he doing? Am I in the wrong spot? And no, he's just disguising coverage, which is so smart to show you how good he is. But, yeah, we got some pretty good defensive backs, man. Not too worried about that side of the ball.
Defensive end, I guess I'll take over for a minute. I
No,
don't know why, but Everson Griffin, Daniil Hunter, I can't pronounce his name. Smith, you take back over. I can't say it.
So we got Everson Griffin and Daniil Hunter are the starters, and the backups will be Ifeadi Odenigbo and Stephen Weatherly. I love both of the backups, man. They're not starters quality, but they are very good rotational players, especially Stephen Weatherly. Man, that dude had a good year last year while Everson took care of his mental health for a little bit, man. He was pretty good. Like I said earlier, I mean, this team just has a factory over Minnesota where they just take players and groom the crap out of them to be defensive stars. Defensive line, maybe.
Yeah. Daniil Hunter, he's like creative player out there on the team. He's just such a
He's like
freakishly
some kind of
large
a
athlete.
situation. Was he been in the league 3 years and he has almost 50 sacks? Like,
Yeah, something stupid like that. Like I don't even.
what?
How do?
All right. Yeah, defensive end we're pretty good at. Defensive tackle, we did take a step back losing Sheldon Richardson, but I like these guys here. Jaleel Johnson, Linval Joseph, Hercules Mataafa, Shamar Stephen, and Amon Watts. I would be lying to you if I could tell you anything about Watts, but I really, really like Shamar Stephen and Linval Joseph being in there. I have seen a little bit of Jaleel Johnson. Hercules Mataafa has had a great preseason, and he was injured last year. I'm super glad to see him make the team. Like I said, I don't know much about Amon Watts, but again, super good depth there. Kind of wish that we still had what's his name that always left us every year, Seattle.
Tom Johnson.
Back. Yeah, I was like, where's Tom Johnson at? Is he not
I actually Googled him before we recorded this podcast. Tom Johnson is currently a free agent. So should the Vikings need him, we can call in Mr. Fix-It Tom Johnson, and he can come be amazing for this team in his little rotational role again. Jaleel Johnson is great. Linval Joseph is just
one of the better things is I just crap all over Spielman for the draft earlier. One of the better free agent signings he's had in his tenure as a Vikings general manager. Getting Linval Joseph was a very big hit.
Yeah, we stole him from the Giants. We totally stole him.
That's fine.
Yeah, me too. Hercules Mataafa is a player that I am looking forward to seeing what he'll be able to do because he's got a hell of a lot of potential to produce for this team. And again, for the Vikings, like you said, defensive end and defensive tackle are just it's our strong suit. That's just one of the things that this team has always done incredibly well is have talent at defensive end and defensive tackle. I mean, we have went from Jared Allen, Kevin and Pat Williams, Brian Robinson to what do we got? Everson Griffin, Daniil Hunter, Linval Joseph.
Yeah.
I mean,
we haven't been hurt there for a long time.
Yeah, like I don't know what it would be like to watch the Vikings without having really good defensive end play and really good play at the defensive tackle position.
And you know what's even crazier? What you're saying about that? I'm trying to think of the year that was really bad. I think it was the Ponder year. But even when we were like arguably the worst defense ever in the NFL, is the year that Jared Allen almost got 22 sacks. I think he got 22 sacks in a year.
Yeah, that was the year. That was the year because we just
people's life a nightmare.
Were you on the podcast that season? I don't remember.
No, I came on right before we hired Zimmer.
Okay, so Adam and I were laughing about that all season long. It's like Jared Allen. You had your defensive scheme that was not working, and you had Jared Allen just freelancing, doing whatever he wanted. You could just tell that he was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna rush the quarterback. I'm gonna go get me another sack."
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
And even though we lost the game, one of my favorite plays ever, because I was getting crap talked to me by a Tampa Bay fan that was in my unit at the time up in Langley, Virginia. I was leaving to go on a deployment, and it was the Adrian Peterson season where he won MVP. We were playing Tampa Bay at home, and I can see the guy's face right now, but the tackle was talking all kinds of crap to Jared Allen, and they got into a fight. Mm-hmm. Jared Allen's nose is bleeding, and he's like, "You know what? I got you, man." Next play, you know it, comes around and sacks the quarterback. And it was Josh Freeman, which is super funny to think about because he was a one-hit wonder for us.
I thought that was against Chicago.
That was Tampa Bay.
Was it?
Yep. We lost that game, which really pissed me off. But wouldn't you have it, Jared Allen would come in literally the next play and be like, "All right, cool, I got you, bro." And he just like pulls a sack right out. And it's like, all right.
I do remember that play because remember they got into a fight. And Jared Allen, he grabbed a hold of his.
Yep.
And yeah. That dude was man. I miss Jared Allen on this team. That dude was a beast.
Shea Rizzo, 21 sacks for him in 2011. Yeah, that's nuts, man. I think I said 22. So good correction.
What was he like? Half a sack shy of the record.
I think he was 1 or 1.5 away from the record, and I know Chicago was triple teaming him at the end of the year, making sure he did not get that record.
Bullshit. And then he went to Chicago.
Crap. All right, let's round out this roster here. Dan,
hold on, really quick.
Oh,
Remember when Chicago had Jared Allen and they changed their defensive scheme and they tried to play him at linebacker in the preseason?
That was a weird year, man. The only thing that could have been worse that year, because he played for the Panthers and the Bears, is he played for the Packers for like 3 weeks. The only thing that could have made that year worse, having to see him in Chicago and then having to see him in Carolina. But he ended up playing in the Super Bowl his last year, which is kind of cool. They didn't win it, but it's kind of cool. Brett Favre slide. One Brett Favre slide. Yeah, that's super true.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking Michael Strahan. If he wasn't such an awesome guy, I'd say something bad about him. I love Michael Strahan. He's cool.
Yeah, he's pretty tough to hate.
Yeah, so round out the roster. Dan Bailey's your kicker. Austin Cutting is your long snapper. And your new punter as of this weekend, Britton Colquitt from the Browns. Lots of positive things about his holding ability, which is really stupid and weird to say that we have to brag on a player for doing their job. But, hey, if you can hold, that means Dan Bailey will probably not miss as many field goals, which I'm here for that.
What's the over-under on these being the 3 specialists that will finish the season for the Vikings?
Ooh. So if you want to go, all right, we'll do it 1.5. Over-under that 1.5 of these guys changes. I'll go under. I think that all 3 of these guys will stay. I think that they'll do just enough not to piss Zimmer off and just enough not to lose. Literally 2 days ago, Kyle was in the chat talking about, I guarantee you this is going to be the reason we lose 2 or 3 games this year. Mm-hmm. But Vedvik, as much as I wish that he would have stayed as a punter, he's not ready to kick field goals yet. Probably why Baltimore was okay with letting him go. 2, getting a punter in here that knows how to hold completely changes the narrative from last year, because Matt Weil was the sole reason Daniel Carlson lost a job last year. So,
yeah, thank you for that, asshole. Hey, Dan Bailey, to his credit, as soon as they brought in like actual competition for Dan Bailey, he cracked his fingers. He cracked his fingers and was like, "Game on, bitch! I'm keeping this job." Yeah,
funny. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I like Dan Bailey. He was one of the best kickers, like statistically, up until last year.
I am super looking forward to not having to talk about either of these 3, except for when we do a game review and we're like, Dan Bailey was 3 for 3 on field goals for 1 from 55, and he made all his extra points today. Like, yep. That's the only stat line I ever want to bring up about any of these assholes for the remainder of the season.
Yeah. If we're not talking about them, that means everything's okay. So I'm with you on that, man. 100%.
Are you excited? You have to be a little excited to see Austin Cutting. It's a good story that he made the team.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I just want to do his job. I want to see him make a good play during a kickoff or something, like something cool. I'd love to see him get like a good heads up, like, oh man, he blasted somebody that was returning or something, or a good block.
Right.
That'd be cool. I'm all for the guys that are doing like the military academies, and I'm all for them trying to make some money, because number 1, it's a cool story, and number 2, like, if you can make enough to where you can just buy a house, like, your life's a whole lot easier already. So I'm rooting for him for sure.
Look, no one in the chat has any faith that we won't have to talk about special teams. That's awesome.
You know what, Andrew? You're probably right.
Yeah, I know you're right.
You're probably right, but
yeah,
here's the wishful thinking, because they did something on paper that makes sense. All right, so we're going to do 2 more things, and
we're at 54 minutes, and we've still got more show.
Oh yeah, we're going to be on here for at least 20 more minutes. So I'll just go down and tell you, between Kyle and I, our predictions were 1 game off, I believe, because you wanted to change one of them. I think you thought about Oakland, and you were like, "No, we should beat the Raiders."
Yeah, the Oakland one was a legitimate typo on my.
So I have the Vikings at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wins. So they will go 10-6. I'm not going to break down every single game. I'm not going to go down and get too in-depth with it. I believe the Vikings could make the wild card into the playoffs, and I'll give you the obvious losses here on my book. I think they will split with Green Bay and Chicago and lose the away games. I think that they will have a rough stretch that third quarter of the season at KC, at Dallas, at Seattle. I believe all of those are losses. And I do believe they will lose to the Los Angeles Chargers because it's going to be late in the year and it's going to be in LA. Now, the weather won't be a factor there, but it's a winning team. It's Kirk Cousins. That does come back, though, against so we have an opportunity to beat Green Bay and Chicago because those are the last 2 games of the year, and they were both at home. They'll probably have winning records. That'll probably booster his number there a little bit. To beat Philly, I have us beating Philly in Minnesota, which will probably be another winning team. They have a pretty easy
see, I don't. I've got us taking a loss.
I think the narrative changes when, number one, we're in Minnesota, and 2, we beat them in Philly last year.
We did.
That's the only reason it gives me hope.
We did.
Wentz makes it through the season, man. I'm telling you, I like Carson Wentz a lot. I don't hope injury on any player at all, but the kid just can't stay healthy, man. It's really bad. Skull Production says going to that Charger game. Hey, send us a picture. If you remember this, send us a photo and give us a shout out on there. We'll put you on the page, man, for sure.
Yeah, we love that kind of stuff.
I don't know if that LA stadium is going to be ready this year or next year, but it's supposed to top the Vikings now because
I think it's next year.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Right now, as according to, I believe it was ESPN, I could be wrong, but the Vikings have the best stadium in football right now. That LA stadium is going to make the Vikings stadium look terrible. It's going to be pretty good.
Not terrible, but
yeah, I know I'm being exaggerative, but
you also have the money from 2 teams pooling in to build this giant.
Let's call it what it is. This is the LA Rams stadium. They just let the Chargers play there.
Yeah, that too.
I'll let Kyle talk about his, and then we'll go into something that I thought was really, really funny.
Yeah, I think I had us I don't have it in front of me. I think I had us at 9 wins.
Yep.
Yeah, when we went through it. I think that there is a really tough middle portion of the schedule. Going into Kansas City is going to be difficult. That's always difficult. You got a bye week, and then we're going into Seattle. That's a trap game. If I've ever seen
110%.
Seahawks are always difficult for us. It doesn't matter what, especially with Jadeveon Clowney out there now for him as well too. Chargers are homeless like most in San Diego.
My God.
That's a funny comment. I do think it works in our favor that we're playing Green Bay and Chicago at home at the end of the season. So we got them indoors. We got them in our environment. I think that will help Kirk Cousins. Playing them early, so we're in Lambeau when it's not going to be snowy and cold. Same with Chicago. I think that helps us out overall too. That gives us maybe a little more of an advantage. I think Detroit, I'm never worried about Detroit. I don't care about Detroit.
I think they'll be better. I think our division is really tough, and they will absolutely be better because they have really good O-line and D-line. But it's the freaking Lions, man. They can't get out of their own way.
Definitely. I think that I'm looking at the schedule. That Chiefs game, put up or shut up time for the Vikings.
Oh yeah, 100%. If you want to test yourself against really good talent on the road, that's the game of the season, honestly.
Right.
So
I do think
right now. So ESPN decided to do every game simulated for this year. And through week 8, they have us at 4-4, 4-5 to week 9. 5-5 in week 10. Week 11, they have us 6-5. Week 12, I think that's our bye week. I don't see us anywhere there. So we'll skip.
The thing that I see about this team just for me personally, if we start out hot, I think we can continue hot. I think that if we somehow miss a field goal and we take a loss against Oakland that we should have won, and something silly happens against Chicago, special teams loses us a game against Chicago, I could see it snowball in a very bad direction for this team, and I hope that does not happen. I don't know what you think of that.
I think it's true. I think it's. I'm not saying your statement is generic. I think it's true. I think it's a safe thing to say, and it's accurate because history would say that if you start out like 0-3, your chances of making the playoffs dramatically drop, versus if you start out like 2-1 or 1-2. Like ESPN has us at like 6-10, so that's not going to happen. I'm just going to tell you now, that's not going to happen. We're going to win more than 6 games. I'll lock that up and send it home. They have the final NFC standings. Oh, I'm sorry. They have us at 7-9. Whew, excuse me. They have Green Bay being the number 1 seed, New Orleans 2, San Fran 3, which is not going to happen. Philadelphia at 4, LA Rams at 5, and the Atlanta Falcons squeaking in at 6. So that's not going to happen. Don't really worry. They have the number 2 Patriots in Foxborough, which is never going to happen. And they have the Saints beating the Chargers in the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's a pretty awful prediction. I'm not going to lie. 7-9 is not going to be this team. We will finish it at a minimum of 500. It just all depends on everything clicking together, which is
right.
Super baseline statement.
I think we can wrap this conversation up with where this is the year for Kirk Cousins in Minnesota where he is probably going to have the best team possible around him, meaning that we've got a lot of veteran pieces. We've got a lot of younger pieces. We've worked, I say we, like you and I had anything to do with this. The Vikings have worked really hard to make sure that they retain players that they think can help us right now, meaning like we're going to keep Everson Griffin at least for another year. We're going to keep Kyle Rudolph at least for another year on this team. I think that if Kirk Cousins does not take that next step forward with Dalvin Cook, with Adam Thielen, with Stephon Diggs, all the other players that we got out there on offense, if he doesn't figure it out now, he is not going to.
Unfortunately, yeah. And I'll tell you, I agree.
You're not going to put a better set of weapons around Kirk Cousins than what he has right now in Minnesota. You're going to be hard pressed to do that.
100%. I'll tell you what it is too is the way the window is set up compared to the year that we got him and acquired him after that NFC Championship run. The window is closing on this team, man. And I know the roster looks real good, but eventually these players are going to get a little bit older, a little bit slower, and then you're going to have to figure out, like, who have I drafted in the last 3 years that's going to take over? And luckily this team's not awful at drafting. They're not the best either, which we mentioned earlier, but the window is closing. You got this year and next year with the Kirk Cousins experiment where, to your credit, what you were saying is all these weapons that he has, they're not going to get better much. They certainly weren't this good. All these weapons weren't this good in Washington. But I think the window is closing. And I think it's going to be these next 2 years, like at least just make it to the Super Bowl. Whether that happens is to be seen. I don't think we will. I hope we do. Don't get me wrong. But the window's closing. He's not going to have a better team like this. Andrew brings up a great question. If Cousins fails, do we have to start a rebuild? It all depends on what your definition of a rebuild is.
I don't think it's a complete rebuild. I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Just because you're still going to have players like Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, and some of the defensive players as well too that are going to be out there. So it's not going to be a complete rebuild. But I do think if Cousins fails, you look at. I don't know if the Vikings would try to bring in another veteran quarterback to compete immediately. I guess I don't know. That's difficult to answer. What do you got, Smith?
I don't. It depends on what your definition of a rebuild is. If we don't go to the Super Bowl and we end up going mediocre, like 8-8 the next couple of years, I do think that Zimmer's gone. I do think that Spielman has a good chance to be gone, and I don't want Zimmer to go because I like Zimmer a lot, and I think he's done tremendous stuff with the defense, even with some years where we didn't live up to expectation, like last year. Kyle makes a good point of there being. Make a good point about there still being great talent. You know, you got Danielle Hunters of the world, Mike Hughes, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook. What's up, Fire Breather? Thanks for joining us. I think that it's more on the coaching staff and finding someone who's going to come in and really look at both sides of the ball to say, okay, like we'll take, for instance, Kansas City. They took Patrick Mahomes knowing that they can make Patrick Mahomes into a superstar. That's Andy Reid's specialty, right? Knowing that single-handedly we're going to change the league and we're going to change games, rather than we've tried to build a complete house all around, and they're kind of like the new Major League Baseball where it's like, we're going to go in and hit home runs every game. We're just going to kick the shit out of you from top to bottom. They wanted to build a team that can hit the bunt and they can get, you know, good guys to hawk the ball in the, you know, the outfield, this and that. And they just stroll in, Kansas City rolls in and say, we're going to hit the most homers you've ever seen in your life. So I think – for a rebuild, like Andrew was asking, it depends on what a rebuild is to you. I do think the coaching staff is gone if we don't make it to the Super Bowl in the next few years. It's just me. I don't want it to happen. I like Zimmer, but I
personally don't think Zimmer is on as much of a hot seat as what you do. I think it would take a large failure for them to move on from Mike Zimmer. I mean, like a 2 or a 3 win season for them to move on from Mike Zimmer. I think that if they go 7-8 wins, they blame Kirk Cousins first. And I think that Zimmer continues to get another shot because he is a damn good coach. He's a good defensive coach. I think that saying this made-up scenario that we're bullshitting about, that Cousins fails, they bring in another quarterback, and then they somehow only go for a 3 or a 4 win season, then you're looking at bringing in a whole new coaching staff and blowing the whole thing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just what I think.
It depends on the draft, too, I think, too, because, like, the kid coming out of Clemson, Jalen Hurts from Oklahoma, and the kid from Alabama, they're all going to be really, really good. All 3 of those guys. You're not going to get those guys every single year of the draft. That kid, Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, he is a generational quarterback. He's going to make some really crappy team really competitive, much like Andrew Luck did with Indianapolis when he played for his 7 years or whatever it was. I mean, we need somebody like that. Minnesota never goes out to find Fire Breather. Sound like Dan Marino and Little Nicky. I just made that joke the other day. I feel like I'm making a deal with the devil. Can I just win one Super Bowl before I die? Like, can I watch the Vikings win one Super Bowl before I'm dead? That's all I want. Just one. You don't have to have a Patriots run. Just one. Just give me a Philadelphia season. Yeah. Where we just kick everybody's ass and we win one. That's cool. But, yeah, it just depends, man. I don't know. Because with the Kirk Cousins thing, just to kind of go back and forth between this with you and I, is the coaching staff has seen an NFC championship game in the second best season this team's ever had in its franchise history with a backup quarterback. So if you don't make the Super Bowl with the guy you paid almost $90 million to, yeah, you can blame him a lot, but you were good enough to coach a backup to the NFC championship game. Why can't you coach a guy who's clearly better than him to a Super Bowl? So
there's a fair point. Although some people would argue that clearly point.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people want us to case, and we see how he's doing. Ugh. Anyways, I don't know, man. We're talking way out of our comfort zone.
We're doing that thing that Vikings fans do all the time. We're always like, when are the wheels gonna fall off this wagon?
We are doomsday preppers as NFL fans. We're just waiting for the apocalypse to happen because we know it's coming. Every year we know it's going to happen. I think that's it, though. I don't know if you got anything else for the show, but
it's been a long episode. We covered a lot of topics.
Yeah, 53-man roster's out. Go check it out. If you guys didn't hear and why we named the episode what we did, Josh Doctson, former first-round pick of the Washington Redskins, has history with Kirk Cousins. We signed for him today. We'll let you know the deal when it finalizes, probably the next show. The next episode we do is going to be after game one, so
game reviews.
Get ready.
Yeah.
We host the Falcons this Sunday. I think it's an afternoon game, so home game to start the season against Atlanta. It's going to be a tough game. I think we'll squeak out a win. I think it's going to be one of those like 27-24 kind of games because Atlanta was really bad last year, but they were super banged up. So they're going to come out and play chippy. I'm excited to see what the offense looks like. And I'm glad that it's a home game to start the season. Andrew says, remember how happy Archer Manning was playing for us? I don't. I'm sorry. I'm not calling you old, Andrew. Not at all. But I don't remember that. So you would have to give us some more insight on that. That's a good reference, though.
Yeah.
That's football royalty right there.
Vikings have had a lot of weird quarterbacks. I'm not calling Arch Manning weird, but by that statement, I mean a lot of quarterbacks that you don't think about that were being on the Vikings that we've had at one point or another.
Yeah, tune in next week. Probably a week from today, probably Monday. I don't think we'll do it Sunday night, but probably Monday of some sort. We'll talk about the Atlanta game.
I want to try to record Monday. Sometime like Sunday or Monday is when I want to get back to recording.
We'll try
if we wait.
We'll try to get Adam and Dorian back in here. I know Dorian has some time issues, so we'll get him back on. Adam's got a lot of deep stuff going on with family right now, so send your prayers and thoughts out to him. We'll get him back whenever he's comfortable, whenever he's ready to come back. So no rush on Adam coming back whenever. You can check out his stuff on the Viking Age. He does a lot of good stuff for us, and we take a lot of notes from that website. There's a lot of good writers there, but I always try to plug his stuff because that's how he makes his money and that's how he pays his bills. If you just go to every article that Adam writes and you just go below and literally just type your name and comment, the numbers boost for his page viewings and his interaction. So help a guy out. You can see it right here. Kyle's putting it up on the page. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So we're using this new thing called StreamYard. As you could tell about 30 to 60 seconds ago, Kyle was messing with all the screens that we can use. We super love this format that we're using, and we're probably going to continue to use this. I think we've all agreed, like pretty much from the day we used it a couple of episodes ago, like this is it. But just give the page some love and sign up for the Survival League. If you could, if you can sign up for it today or tomorrow, you'll get in before the season starts. There's only a couple of spots left, but Survival League is on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Purple People Podcast. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me blabbing away.
I think that'll do it for this week. We've been here for an hour and almost 13 minutes.
Yep.
So that is quite the episode.
We'll see you guys after this starts on Sunday. And just really happy. Go Vikings. And hopefully we'll beat the Falcons.
School.
Stay classy, Minnesota.